Let's get to a game that I'm actually really interested in talking about because we don't have to really play the opt-outs card or the injuries card. There's not much we can actually kind of talk about the game here, and I really want to talk about the Sugar Bowl, Alabama versus Kansas State. I don't know what the line is like right this second. It's been hovering around Bama like -6, 6.5, but I don't know if there's been any significant movement there in the last couple of days. Is that still about what it is?
Yep. Sitting around 6.5 at most spots right now.
First of all, before we kind of get into that game, do you have a play for that at this point?
I haven't played it yet. It is something that this kind of goes back to our previous conversation about like how much are you going to get from guys that you maybe thought would opt out but haven't. So obviously Bryce Young and Will Anderson being two of the best players in the country, great, they didn't opt out, but how much are they going to play? How much, is their game script going to look like a normal Alabama game script? And I don't know that I have enough faith in that yet to make a play. I mean, Alabama would be my lean here. I do project the game Alabama -10, based on the season-long full-strength metrics. So Alabama would be my lean, but I don't know that I'm going to have a play on it just because I don't have a great feel for what this Alabama team is actually going to look like and how much Bryce Young and Will Anderson are going to impact this game.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I should probably just say it. We've been alluding to it. No one has opted out of this game. There are no opt-outs as of Thursday night for either team. And I know the immediate reaction there is, well, that's just huge for Alabama. Pretty big for Kansas State. Deuce Vaughn, star running back, has not announced his intentions yet. It sounds like he's probably going to go to the NFL after this season, but hasn't announced that yet, but is playing. And then you've got Felix Anudike Uzoma. Sorry, almost I got through that one. Their Kansas State star defensive end is playing, is going to go pro, but is playing in this game. He's one of the best pass rushers in the country. So this is just as big, I think, for Kansas State as it is for Alabama. I think it wouldn't be a very tough argument to make that, despite the talent of someone like a Will Anderson, Alabama's got more dudes behind him than Kansas State. Kansas State's roster depth is not quite what Alabama's is. But it does make it fun. It does sound like everyone's going to play. Again, my question, one for each side. What's Deuce Vaughn's workload for Kansas State, and what's Bryce Young's workload for Alabama? Because the answer to those two questions could drastically shift my opinion on this game. The other thing I think is interesting here for Kansas State, and I was talking about this with a friend of mine who covers them earlier today, and it was just, is there any program that may benefit more from the college football playoff expanding from 4 to 12 than Kansas State's like the poster child of the program that could really benefit from this.
Yep.
They seem to have their coach. He's doing a great job. Turned down the Nebraska job, allegedly. They just are about to sign one of their best recruiting classes in a long time. They seem to, they had a few rough years at one point, but they've seemed to historically be right in that range of, not really like good enough to be in the top 5, but good enough to be in a 12-team playoff or be in contention for 12-team playoff. Playing, this game against Alabama, I think will be interesting for them on the national stage, but I just think this is kind of a tune-up for them of like, okay, you want to kind of make that leap up the ladder a little bit. Here you go. This is what it's going to be like, in a year or 2 years when the playoff expands. So I think I'm very anti like bowl game in general. I'm like, oh, these are exhibition games, but I think there's a lot at stake. Maybe not a lot, but I think there's something at stake here for Kansas State.
Yeah, and they, especially when you factor in that Oklahoma and Texas are going to be leaving the Big 12. I mean, it's right for the taking there. And I mean, and Kansas State was right there. I mean, they won it this year, obviously, and they they probably should have beaten TCU the first time around. If it wasn't for some bad injury luck on their quarterbacks in that first game, they would have beaten TCU the first time around. So that I think they absolutely are a program that can, maybe use this as kind of a measuring stick for like, okay, this is what it may look like in a couple years in the postseason when we're playing for something that, truly matters for the program.
All right. Give me a prediction here. Give me a score, a winner. How do you see this playing out? I know it's tough with the lack of opt-outs now kind of telling us, okay, who's actually going to play how many snaps, but how do you see this one playing out?
I mean, if Deuce Vaughn's workload, like you said, that's a huge question. If he's going to carry it, 20, 25 times, I think Kansas State can be competitive here. But I do think, Alabama at the end of the day is one of the three best programs in terms of recruiting, and they're obviously the best overall program in the country. And I think eventually their talent's going to win out. Like I said, I projected at 10. I think that's probably about right. I could see them winning, 34-24 or something like that.
I think Kansas State's going to give this all they've got for about 3 quarters. And I just think Alabama's going to be there's going to be a play that happens. It's going to be like a Will Anderson strip sack. Something special is going to be done by one of their elite guys. And, I have a ton of respect for the Kansas State program. I think they maximize. I don't know if any program in the country has maximized its talent and resources over the years more than Kansas State. But and it's not just that Will Anderson and Bryce Young haven't opted out, because we still don't know how much they're going to play. I think Nick Saban's probably been on the warpath here the last few weeks. Him not being in the playoff is just, it's just something that I know is eating at him like you can't even imagine. And so it's probably not been very fun for these guys the last few weeks. And so I don't think you're going to get unmotivated Alabama. I think you're going to get angry Alabama. I think you're going to get, almost like a starved animal. And so I don't think Kansas State's going to be able to play we want to be here more than anybody, and they don't want to be here, and we're going to, jump on them. We've seen that over the years in these types of games. God, didn't Utah beat the crap out of somebody it may have even, I don't forget who it was a couple years ago. Utah got an SEC team, and it was just a bloodbath. I was like, holy God. I don't think that's going to happen here. I'm with you. I've got Alabama, and I've got Alabama. 2 scores is about right. I think it'll be really close into the fourth quarter, but I think Alabama will pull away in the fourth quarter. Just a little too much speed, a little too much explosiveness, a little too much playmaking on defense. But this is, of all the bowl games, not counting the playoff games, probably the one I'm looking forward to the most. I just think it's an interesting contrast.
Yeah, I think so. And I made the unfortunate mistake of betting against Nick Saban in a non-playoff bowl when they played Michigan a few years ago, and that didn't work out well for me. So I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, and look, Saban's not perfect. His teams have had some ugly performances at times in games, but I just don't think that. I just think he's going to have these guys ready to go. I just think you can kind of get a feel for his teams. Like every now and then they'll miss the playoffs, and you can kind of get a feel for like, okay, is this going to be the checked out version of the team, or is this going to be the really angry, I can't believe we're not in this playoff. Let's go, let's go take it out on somebody. And I feel like that's the Alabama Kansas State's going to get, but I think Kansas State is good enough and motivated enough here to not get overwhelmed by it. But it's not going to be one of the. I just don't think we're going to see Alabama come in here and lay down. That'd be really surprising to me.